Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some wild timing. I had just finished my USC transfer portal target wish list. As I'm uploading the episode, I take a look at my phone. Running back Quinten Joyner hitting the transfer portal. I had just talked about Quinten Joyner being the guy for USC in 2025 and, maybe adding a veteran running back, but feeling damn good that Quinten Joyner is going to be the guy in 2025. Well, now USC is going to be looking for a running back in the transfer portal. Obviously, Woody Marks moving to the NFL. Now, Quinten Joyner hitting the transfer portal. It is a young, inexperienced running back room. This all of a sudden becomes a massive priority for Lincoln Riley and USC. And this one's kind of frustrating, I think, for a lot of USC fans. And I think Trojan Blade, I just looked at what he said on Twitter with the news. By the way, if y'all listen to me talk about USC football, which I appreciate y'all, I think Trojan Blade does a phenomenal job as well. I think he's absolutely right. This is what happens when you just don't use a really good football player enough. This is not a knock on Woody Marks. I have no question marks about Woody Marks being the running back one for this USC offense, but Quinten Joyner should have been getting way more opportunities than he did in the 2024 season. I think this is kind of a result of just not giving enough opportunity to Quinten Joyner from the eyeball test. From what we see every Saturday on the football field, this kid to me looked like a stud. Now, I don't know if he was having some ball security problems in practice, not picking up pressures the right way. Maybe something off the field was happening around the practice field. But when we saw him have the football in his hands, this kid was a really good running back for USC. And I think Lincoln Riley just not getting him involved enough was probably the reason you're seeing him hit the portal. So we're going to talk about some targets or updated list of targets. I got a bunch of targets for USC. We're going to cut that list in half, talk about now the running back position. Before we get into it, as always, the USC fans, frustration, I'm sure. Let it fly in the comments section. As always, appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, look, so if there is a bright side to this situation, the running back position is, in my opinion, a very easy position to go out and address in the transfer portal. You even look at last offseason, Woody Marks was one of the better running backs in the portal, but he was not a guy that was national media headlines. USC brings him in. He emerges as really one of the better running backs that we saw in the country. So I do think this is a position, unlike some other positions, that USC can address. I've been looking at this kid, Wayshawn Parker from Washington State. As a true freshman last year, ran for over 735 yards, averaged 5.5 yards per carry, forced 37 missed tackles. It buzzed his film a little bit. He's electric with the football in his hands. He's only a true freshman. He's only getting better as a football player. This would be one from Sacramento, California, that I would expect USC to become a massive player in over the next couple of days and weeks. Now, there's a lot of other good running backs, and we're going to see and continue to see a lot of really good running backs hit the transfer portal. So this is not an emergency. It's frustrating because it's a really good player that we all expected to be a really good player in 2025 for USC hitting the portal. But I do think this is a position where USC can relatively easily address in the transfer portal. Now, you had Mason Murphy transfer at right tackle. That's I don't know if it's surprising, but I don't think that's a huge blow. I think USC was going to look to upgrade the right tackle position either way. I'm taking a look at this. He's really my first call in the transfer portal. Now, you look at USC and you start having the discussion of where USC should go in the transfer portal. Look, I look at the wide receiver room and say, if Zachariah Branch, Jacoby Lane, Deuce, Xavier Jordan, I'm extremely high on Mekhi Lemon. If they're all back for USC in 2025, I look at that position and say, I think they're going to be just fine. I think one thing really important to note, all of those players we just talked about are either going into year 3 or year 2. Like they're all going to become better football players going into 2025. So I look at that position and say, I'm not saying Lincoln Riley shouldn't get another wide receiver. You can never have enough good playmakers on the offensive side of the football, but you got to eat your vegetables first. You got to make sure this offensive line is squared away. Luke Biklenko, I think, is an absolute dude. And you look at him, started the last 4 games as a true freshman at Stanford in 2023. It's very rare to see true freshmen start at the Power 4 level. Luke was able to switches over to the right side in 2024. I thought looked better. And then I think what is most exciting is one, with this kid, you're getting a starting caliber tackle. Like he did it at Stanford, did it at a high level. But more importantly, you might be getting a tackle that even gets better heading into 2025. He's not this 5th-year, 6-year senior that's coming in. He's a guy that's only going into year 3 that has some more physical maturation that needs to take place, which you see on the film. Well, guess what? He's only going into year 3. That physical maturation is going to take place for a 20, 21-year-old instead of a 23, 24-year-old who's going into his 6th year. And so I think Luke Blanco would be a dynamite addition. You look at Elijah Page at left tackle, we just saw it. The last 6 games, the last 4 or 5 games for USC in 2024, Elijah Page emerged as one of the better tackles in this conference. He's only going to get better going into 2025. And then you look at Luke Blanco at right tackle and say, all right, now immediately we're feeling pretty damn good about our starting tackles. And Tobias Ramey going into year 3. I feel like he's going to be ready to maybe push for a starting spot, but at the very least be adequate depth at that tackle position. Now, on the inside of the offensive line, that's another story. We got to add some bodies. Jordan White. I banged the table for him a couple of days ago. I'm going to bang the table for him again. Over 2,000 career snaps, 340 pass pro opportunities in 2024, gave up only 5 quarterback hurries and 2 sacks. He gives you center guard versatility, started every single game this year at guard, started every single game last year at center. When you talk about rebuilding the interior offensive line, having a guy that can play center or guard, depending on how things shake out with your best 5, massive, massive asset when you're trying to build that starting 5 offensive line. Big fan of Jordan White, big fan of Josh Braun too, who kind of hit us with a little fake out, hit the transfer portal, withdrew from the transfer portal, then hits the transfer portal again. Josh Braun, 2,400 snaps in the SEC over the last couple of years. Has been very, very good for Arkansas. You look at Josh Braun, what excites me the most, he moves bodies in the run game. That's something that USC started to lean in toward to the back half of the season and had a lot of success running the football. You want to continue that success? Go get 6'6", 340 Josh Braun from Arkansas. Has been moving bodies in the SEC. Will certainly be able to move bodies in the Big Ten. You go land some experienced pieces on the inside and then go grab a guy like Luke Blanco. All of a sudden you look at the offensive line and say, feel pretty good. And then at the quarterback position, I'll give you my quick take. Lincoln Riley is going to be able to have the pick of his litter. Yeah, there's kind of no doubt to me about that. Look at Hassan Longstreet, who was committed to Texas A&M, who was very happy with his commitment. When Lincoln Riley came calling, Hassan Longstreet said it himself, I was extremely happy with Texas A&M. This was not me flipping because I got any ill will towards Texas A&M. It's when Lincoln Riley wants you to play quarterback for him, the hard guy to say no to. And so I don't even know if the quarterback that Lincoln Riley wants is currently in the transfer portal. If Lincoln Riley decides he wants a portal quarterback, I think it's fair to say he's going to get whatever one he wants, or at least close to whatever one he wants. Moving over to the defensive side of the football, and we'll get into it more. I'm redoing this one because of the Quinten Joyner news. Gabriel Lightfoot makes a lot of sense. Look, I want USC to grab 2 to 3 interior defensive linemen. That's kind of depending on, all right, Jakeem Stewart as a reclassified freshman. Is he going to play a role? I think he will. Gita Abasari and Carlin Jones, I would project to be big-time contributors for USC in 2025. And then I look at even a guy like Devin Tompkins. Say feel pretty good about him. And so now you just want to add maybe one game wrecker, a guy like Derek Carmen. You look at Derek Carmen and the impact he's had on this Oregon defense. I want to see USC go out and get one of those guys. You know, whether that's a Jaheim Otis, whether that's another name that we have yet to see hit the portal, maybe one of those Georgia defensive linemen. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And then a couple of rotational pieces, Gabriel Lightfoot being one. Is Gabriel Lightfoot going to come in from Fresno State, be a game wrecker? No. Is it going to be a Gavin Mayer type player? Absolutely. And that is extremely valuable. When you have depth on the defensive line, it's almost as important as having star players and NFL guys. You're only as good as your depth. If you have guys that are significant drop-offs when your ones are on the sideline, you ain't going to be that good of a defense. Gabriel Lightfoot will give you 20 to 25 damn good snaps a game. That matters. He's not the flashiest player. He's a California kid. Bring him back home to USC. Another guy I would look at in the secondary, Ethan O'Connor, big fan of this kid. I think he's a day one starter for USC. Redshirted last year, started this year, 735 total snaps. He's a battle-tested cornerback, and that's what I love. He's not a cornerback that was just out there and didn't get any action. 62 targets he faced, only gave up 31 catches, a 50% completion percentage when he was targeted. Really, really impressive. And then the physical traits, they all check the box. And he's got some nice ball skills because he was a wide receiver as well at a high school ranks. Not sure why USC didn't go after him the first time around, but go get him now that he's in the portal. Last one I'll talk about is Dylan Tiemann from Purdue. All around stud safety. Has played over 1,600 snaps, doesn't miss tackles, can play him in the box, can play him as a free safety, do it all safety. That kind of versatility is what I think Dan Lynn and Lincoln Riley are looking for on the defensive side of the football. We kind of did an abbreviated target list because I have to redo it and talk about Quinten Joyner. We'll continue to update the conversation. Every time I look at my phone, new names are popping in the portal. So we'll have a lot of these conversations. Would love to hear from y'all in the comment section. The USC fans, ton of support y'all show. Appreciate you guys. And we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.